Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for refusing to let my ex's stepkids stay at my house after summer camp? Ex and I, both 30s, have 2 children together. Our son is 11 and our daughter is 8. Ex is married to Jenna, and is a stepfather to her 4 children between the ages of 5 and 11. Ex's second marriage has created quite the complicated dynamic between us and for our kids. He finds it impossible to make time for the kids, to have their extracurriculars, when his stepkids have fizz in different places. So he attempted to force the kids to quit the stuff they like and take other stuff. I stepped in and offered to drive them, but he turned me down. So the kids do not attend their extracurriculars on dad's time, which upsets them, but I have tried to make it work, and my ex said no. They really hate that he prioritized his stepkids keeping this, and they dislike the idea that they should do stuff they have no interest in just to do something and make life easier. Ex has told me they have expressed this to him, and I need to help them see they are being selfish. I told him that was untrue. His argument is they are not close to their step siblings because of resentment. I told him back then that he should prioritize their interests as much as he does his stepkids, and he ignored me. A couple of months ago my kids expressed an interest in a particular day summer camp. I spoke to X. He said no way. They needed to go where his stepkids wanted to go. That he would not make his life more difficult. I ended up offering to pay 100% of the cost, which won him over. Kinda. Then a week ago he told me he needed me to take his stepkids after camp for 3 hours from now until camp ends. That I have made his life more difficult, and I should help him out. I said no. X is pissed. Our buyers come to me after camp, but his stepkids go to a paid babysitter, and apparently that's not fair or right when they could save that money. I told him I already took the cost of camp for our kids because he wanted to make them do one they didn't want to do because it made his life easier. I told him I was not taking his stepkids on top of that. He told me I'm getting in the way of the kids all bonding as siblings, and I'm making the divide more clear. I think he's being ridiculous, and I disagree wholeheartedly with him saying I'm getting in the way of the kids' relationship. He still thinks I'm an asshole for not taking them, using they're just kids, and they're our kids' family and they'll want them over. My kids don't want more time with their step siblings. That I know without any doubt. But am I the antagonist for not letting his stepkids come to my house after camp? Now for the top comments. NTA and I would ask for a modification of custody with a law guardian for your kids. They are clearly getting the short end of the stick with him, and they are continually being made to give up or compromise on behalf of his wife's kids. This is unfair to your kids and eventually will cause a break with him. He is being clueless, and it seems like his wife is running everything. I hope Pop reads this and does something about it. The only one causing a divide is the lazy dad. NTA 1. Don't take over watching his kids for 3 hours a day. I have a feeling that the amount of time and work he expects you to do for free will gradually increase. 2. He's pissed about a divide that he's creating because he either doesn't want to upset his spouse by favoring his BO kids, or he's just so stupid that he can't see the more he pushes the kids together they grow further apart. NTA What does his stepchildren have to do with you? You aren't their step-parent. You have no obligation for his stepkids. He needs to prioritize your kids, as when they get older they will resent him so much more. Am I the antagonist for being shallow and ableist? I dated a guy for about 6 months who was always late. Usually 30 minutes late is on time for him, and 1-2 late every week or so. It was infuriating, and by the time he gets there I have had enough and don't want anything to do with him. The only reason I lasted so long was because whenever I would complain to my friends they would tell me to give him another chance, don't be so hard on him. I tried to arrive 30 minutes after the agreed upon time, but after a few times he caught on and then started arriving even later. He has ADHD, but I'm sick of him using it as an excuse because he has a job. He complains he has to clock in and out every day and even clock in and out at work. He complains that he was so late so often his boss threatened to fire him, and so he wasn't late again in fear of losing his job. So he can be on time, he just doesn't care enough about my time to be on time. I broke up with him last week and told my friend's one friend who also has ADHD, who is also known for being the tardy one of the group, got mad at me for being shallow and ableist. I got bad because clearly he can keep a job so he can be on time, and she defended him saying it's very hard and stressful for him to be on time, so I should be more accommodating for people who are late due to mental issues. Now for the top comments. I say not the a-hole. Is his ADHD responsible for his lateness? Yeah, maybe, but so a person who hates cats shouldn't date a cat rescuer. A person who is seriously bothered by chronic lateness shouldn't date this guy. You're not compatible, and that's okay. And the fact once he found out Op was accommodating the constant lateness by coming later, they made sure they were even later. It's absolutely ridiculous. Your time is precious. Also, if you look at it at an end goal version of dating people to eventually marry and or have kids, did you want them to be 2 hours late to your wedding? What about feeding? Picking up Stepkids from school 1 to 2 hours late? What if Op had an important appointment that they needed help with? Do you just roll over and take it when they decide to be late to that? It's not ableist at all. Your friend can date them, / you don't have to date anyone. If you aren't compatible, that's just fine and dandy. You don't owe people a relationship, and you don't need a reason to not date someone. I tried to arrive 30 minutes after the agreed upon time, but after a few times he caught on and then started arriving even later. Easy not the a-hole from that. He's entirely able to reliably arrive 30 minutes late from an agreed time. And yet when he realizes you're both arriving about 30 minutes later, he feels the need to start arriving even later so he can waste an extra half hour of your time every date. That's just insulting. Am I the antagonist for not changing the name I chose for my daughter? Since we started trying to get pregnant, we always knew the name we wanted if we had a girl. We tried for 2 years, gave up, and just when we thought it was simply not gonna happen, I realized I was pregnant. We were so incredibly happy, even more when the doctor told us we were having a girl. For me it was also very special because I already have boys from a previous marriage, and I really wanted to have a girl. We shared the news with our families, including the name we chose, and everyone was super happy. A few months later, I'm still pregnant. My half sister got pregnant too, and when she found out she was also having a girl, she called me and said that she chose the same name as we did. She has always liked that name, and she was not going to change it. If anything, we should choose another one, because this was her first baby and I already had 2 kids. I was surprised, because to me it's just weird to choose the same name as someone that will be so close in the family, and if it had been the other way around, and she would have announced it first, even though we love the name, I would have picked another one. But I didn't make a big deal out of it. The last thing I wanted was to create conflict, so I just said to her she can do whatever she wants, and if the girls have the same name, then that's just how it is. But then my stepmother, her mother, called me and said I'm a horrible sister, that her daughter cannot stop crying about it, and that I'm being a total asshole because I already had the chance to give whatever name I wanted to my boys, and that I should let her have this. I simply said I didn't agree with her, that my daughter already has a name. I even bought stuff with her name for the nursery, and that I'm not going to change it. Since they feel so strongly about this, and normally they're regular nice people, I keep wondering if I'm wrong. Am I the asshole here? Now for the top comments. NTA, you call dibs on the name and your kid will be born first. So she's kind of without a leg to stand on here. Who the fuck is she to try and tell you to rename your child, or even worse, to try and tell you that a third child is somehow less valuable as a human being than a first one? You have a name for your daughter, so your involvement in her bullshit is actually done. As you told her, what she wants to do is her own business. But it's not actually your business, so they can keep you out of it. Edit, unless the name you both want is Starlight or Apple or something like that. In which case my advice would be that you both change it. Close bracket. Starlight Apple sounds like a great name for a My Little Pony. NTA, especially as you communicated the news and the name you chose to your families before your half-sister got pregnant. It's also not a valid argument that you already had other children and were able to choose names freely for them. I would like to add that there are people sharing the exact same names in my family, as in, same first and last name, due to similar reasons. But we have always managed to tell them apart just fine. Yes. And in my extended family there are 6 with the same name, so people adapt. For example, fake names, John, Johnny, Jonathan, Big John, Little John, etc. Am I the antagonist for telling my boyfriend I don't want his kid's mother to call during outings? I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years, and we have a blended family of 6, 2 children each. It's been quite the transition for everyone living together, but we are at a place of harmony. His ex insists on calling almost every single night to say goodnight to the kids. His daughter is here on weekends and his son lives with us, and I have no issue with this. Sometimes it's annoying, but we are mostly at home most nights and it's no issue. This weekend we are going to Great Wolf Lodge, a huge indoor water park, and I told my boyfriend that I would prefer she didn't call during our stay. We are staying one night. He doesn't want to make waves with her because she's kind of a bitch, and I get that, but I can't imagine every outing, every trip, every vacation having her call every single night. I'd like to enjoy our time as a family, and it is not her time. Am I the asshole for asking she fuck off when we have something special planned? Now for the top comments. AITA, your relationship will not last with this attitude. Edit. Just read your post history. I hope the ex gives you hell, you deserve it. AITA, I really wanted to side with you. I was ready to hear she calls constantly and purposely sabotages outings. She's just being a good mom. What's wrong with you? When my parents divorced, my dad spent his whole ass lunch break at his factory night job feeding quarters into a payphone so he could talk to me and my sister before bed. So let me get this straight. You stole her husband. You destroyed their marriage and the family that they had together, and now her children have to go between 2 homes, and now you're trying to also steal that goodnight call? What the hell is wrong with you? Also, it's an overpass trip. What mother wouldn't want to call her kids when they are away from home and sleep in a hotel? Are you for real? So what if she doesn't call while she's out partying? She has the right to go out and have fun too. You're the a-hole. AITA, because you admitted in a prior post you fucked her husband and stole him. You're the worst. Am I the antagonist for telling my cousin to grow up after she threw a tantrum on our holiday? In late May, my mum, my aunt, my cousin, 18F, and I, 18F, went on holiday together to the States and stayed with relatives for a couple weeks. We just got back to the UK a few days ago. The relatives we stayed with, uncle and his wife, were lovely. For context, my uncle and I speak on the phone constantly and are super close despite being on separate continents. So he knows me well and knows I love reading. Upon arrival, he immediately told me that they were planning on taking me to a huge Barnes & Noble bookstore in the city, where I could buy any books I wanted. I was obviously excited about this and thought it would be so fun. My aunt and cousin never expressed interest in the idea. My aunt even jokingly called me sad for thinking about reading on a holiday and questioned why a bookshop in another country would be so special. Same books, different country. For the first week, we did all the classic tourist stuff, took loads of pictures, ate a lot, walked around a lot, went to the zoo, aquarium, museums, purchased our friends and neighbors back home some souvenirs so they wouldn't be upset when we got back, went shopping in several big malls. My uncle works weekdays, so when the weekend came round he was finally free and offered to take me to the bookstore. Keep in mind, he did not intend on taking my cousin or aunt, as they'd made it clear they weren't interested. My uncle's wife was going to take them to the Navy Pier whilst my mum, uncle, and I went book shopping, so they weren't gonna be sitting at home idly waiting for us to get back. This didn't end up happening, as my aunt and cousin claimed that this was a family holiday and splitting up to do separate things was disrespectful. So we should either all go to the bookstore or the pier together. My uncle said fine, and everyone agreed we'd all go to the bookstore that day and then the pier the following day. We got to be in then, and my cousin complained the whole time about how bored she was, and I wondered why the hell they even came when they had the option to go to the pier handed to them. I was in the middle of reading the first page of a book I liked the look of, and my cousin approached me, loudly sighed and said, "How long is this going to take?" We were in the store for maybe 15 minutes altogether before we had to leave because she started crying and wouldn't calm down until we were back in the car. When I asked her why they didn't just go to the pier, she accused me of trying to get rid of her, and that's when I just told her to grow up. Aunt thinks I'm selfish and rude for wanting to buy some books this badly, and for telling my cousin to grow up. Mum agrees that cousin needs to grow up, but thinks I should have just left it and not insulted her. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA. She's 18 and crying because she spent 15 minutes in a bookstore? You were right. She needs to grow up. Also, never lose your love of reading. I'm almost 30 and always get excited about going into bookstores in different countries. They have their own kind of magic. Plus when you read that book it reminds you of your travels, which makes it even more special. I'm so glad someone gets it. I was so excited to go to the bookstore for these reasons. The whole experience is so warm and memorable. Thankfully we did end up going back, just my uncle and I this time, before we left the country, and I did get to buy a couple books. So I'm grateful. NTA. They had an option to do something else with their time. I would never choose to go someplace I didn't find interesting on vacation, and certainly wouldn't complain or cry if I chose to go someplace I didn't want to. She's 18 not 8. Her reaction is embarrassing. I used to work with 7 to 8 year olds and none of them would have acted like this, which makes the cousin's reaction even more embarrassing. NTA. It is absolutely okay to split up and do separate things whilst on a vacation. They even had the option of walking around the area where the bookstore was while you shopped. They didn't have to go into the bookstore. I'm sure there were other shops around. And to be 18 and throw a tantrum and cry simply because you had to go to a bookstore when you didn't want to? No. She needs to grow up, and it's about time someone told her the truth. Am I the antagonist for showing up at my brother's wedding pregnant and announcing my baby's gender? I, 36F, am not close with my family. I live in a different state, so I don't have much contact with them. My brother, 30 male, got married last weekend and invited me. I told him I'll come and not have a +1. My husband and I recently separated, and after that I found out I was pregnant. My extended family didn't know about the separation or about the pregnancy. I told my brother I was pregnant when we spoke on the phone before the wedding. He congratulated me, and that was more or less it. My family also knew my marriage was very rocky. My parents also knew about the pregnancy. So I'm 7 months pregnant right now and getting a divorce. When I showed up to the wedding, everyone was super shocked to see me be pregnant and alone there. A lot of questions followed. I answered them with as little info as possible, and that was it. During the ceremony, the priest mentioned my pregnancy. It's a small town and the priest has been there since I was a kid to make a joke or whatever about what is next for the bride and groom, babies. Something like an after ops baby. Hopefully many more will join this beautiful family of bride and groom. Bride was pissed off because now everyone knew I was pregnant. During the picture taking part of the reception, my brother says okay, and now I want to take a pic with my favorite sister and my first nephew. I laughed and said niece, actually, and he was super happy. We took a pic. That's it. Bride came to me later and called me an after upstaging her wedding with not just my pregnancy, but also the baby gender announcement. Her family is obviously on her side. My brother thinks she is acting crazy and I did nothing wrong. And my parents think I should have informed people I was pregnant before coming to the wedding, plus should have kept quiet about gender. Am I really the here? Now for the top comments. So I'm 7 months pregnant right now. Priest mentioned my pregnancy. Bride was pissed off because now everyone knew I was pregnant. Spoiler, everyone knew it already. All they had to do was look at you, and you didn't announce your baby's gender. You just corrected your brother when he announced it wrong. NTA. My brother thinks she is acting crazy. He's right. I wish him luck. He's gonna need it. Piggybacking on this to just note that you can tack on my parents think I should have informed people about the pregnancy before the wedding. You mean Like you actually did, by telling your parents and the groom, who presumably could have told his now wife. NTA, you didn't go in intentionally trying to upstage anyone. The gender comment was literally just in passing. You would be an R if you stood up in the middle of the reception and announced the gender to everyone. I get that it is her day, but your very existence is not taking anything away from her special day. NTA, you can't hide a 7-month pregnancy.